Starting the first year of Mechiras Chametz. Although I originally planned on not going through Seder Mechiras Chametz, but jumping into the next part, I will start first going through Seder Mechiras Chametz quickly, explaining what it is, and then we will go to the additional parts that I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to be one or two more shiurim on topics which are connected to Mechiras Chametz. There was two shiurim on Mechiras Chametz given in the past in this Kailo. One was given 2 years ago by Rabbi Chaim Shapiro. It's on YouTube. One was given last year by Rabbi Hamnik. It's also on YouTube. And different elements that have to do with it. The Alter Rebbe begins Seder Mechiras Chametz by a general introduction, which is even though it's an introduction to Seder Mechiras Chametz, it's a general introduction for a lot of halachic topics. And he starts, Noida Basharim Mitzuyonim Behalacha, it is a known halachic rule. Ashahar b'misfarim harishonim zechreinu levracha liyotz le'er atfus adayim b'meiha achroinim zechreinu levracha ataz v'mogen avrom v'nimshochim achareim. Many of the rishonim that we have today, I'm talking about in the days of the Alter Rebbe, were not printed yet in the days of the Taz and the Mogen Avram and those that follow the Taz and the Mogen Avram, such as the Pri Megadim. Ad ata korev dereseinu eile, until this generation, kanira ba'alil misefer shita mekubetzes lakal masechtes v'kayetze boy, as it is clearly seen from the fact that shita mekubetzes and certain masechtes were not printed until recently the Alter Rebbe's days. The reason why the Shita Mekubetzes is mentioned here, the Shearit Yehuda writes right in the beginning when he discusses the explanation of the Alter Rebbe's Yesod Mechiras Chametz. He says the reason why the Alter Rebbe brings the Shita Mekubetzes is because is merames to that the Yesod for the Alter Rebbe's Takana and Mechiras Chametz is based on something which is in the Shita Mekubetzes. Therefore, therefore, if you have a kula in the books of the Achronim, which is contradicted by Rishonim, which the Achronim did not see. That means if the Achronim saw the Rishon was available to them, and they still made a kula, obviously they have a reason for it. But if the Rishonim were not available to those Achronim, and they went to the kula on something which the Rishonim contradicted, so you can't rely on it, and you can't rely lahakal l'maisa on such a thing. Ubifrat be'isur teira chomer kechometz, especially on the isur deiraisa like chometz, she'achmira teira val yirah bal yemotze, where the Torah was so strict that you have bal yirah ubal yemotze. That is a general introduction to determining halachic, when you see a kula from the Achronim, and there's a Rishon which contradicts it, and the Rishon was not available to the Achronim that write about it, then you can't rely on that kula. Therefore, from that, Alter Rebbe moves on to Mechiras Chametz. Now comes the introduction to Mechiras Chametz. If somebody's going to come and say the whole Mechiras Chametz is only an additional aspect, midrabanon, lefi aminok shehakol mevatel nachomes v'orim kol chamira libotel lahave hefker v'cholu, that the mechira is only done l'rafcha de milsa basically midrabanon, but really midiraisa the bittul works. That doesn't work. Shgoga biyada, it's a mistake. Why? For three reasons. First of all, chametz animkar eni bichlal bittul hefker. Chametz which is sold is not included in bittul and in hefker. And that is, why is that? Being that he has in mind that he's going to reacquire it after Pesach. Yeah, that means obviously he's not planning on doing a bittul. If he's bittul and hefker, he's not planning on reacquiring it after Pesach. Huh? What do you mean doesn't belong to him? He sold it, but in his mind, the reason why he's selling it is because he wants to be able to buy it afterwards, after Pesach, buy it back from the guy. He's selling it to the guy, and with the intention that after Pesach he'll be able to buy it. He's not just letting it go. And the fact is, it means it's a contradiction to the whole concept of bittul. And the way he looks at it is, this is how the Tzemach Tzedek explains it in Piskadim and explains it Alter Rebbe, that if he looks at if the bittul would work, obviously it's not sold to a guy, because he was mafked it already. If it's sold to a guy, then there's no bittul, it doesn't belong to him. You can't be mevatel something. And therefore, being that bittul and mechira contradict each other, therefore, being that mechira and bittul contradict each other, it says you can't say that the mechira comes on top of the bittul, and the bittul is derais and mechira is only extra. Rather, it's either mechira or bittul, and therefore people are relying on the mechira, and they're only doing bittul for whatever was not sold. Therefore, a mechira in a kadas, if the sale is not a proper sale, he is over if the mechira never became real. He's over on the isra of bal yirah bal yimatzah on Pesach. Ve'im kain, and therefore yesh lahachmir b'zeh. You have to be machmir in this issue when it comes to mechira, and therefore the Alter Rebbe comes and he gives his new way of being machmir. But first he starts by explaining what is the issues that there are. Basically, the Alter Rebbe instituted a few points. First, there should be by out of Kablan, that it should be that the guy has a right to sell it to whoever he wants, and more than one kinyan. And they say, Ikar din mechiras chametz nachri. The mechiras chametz, that the Yesod, the original mechiras chametz, which is discussed in the Rishonim, is not the mechiras chametz that was later on in the days of the Achronim. Rather, it's when the guy purchased the whole chametz, paid full price for it at the time of Erev Pesach, paid the yid full price. The guy went. In those days, obviously you're not talking about the amount of chametz people had today. The most they had was a few things. And they would go to the guy, to the neighbor, to the worker, whatever it is, and tell him, here it is, here you have 2 bottles of beer and 2 bags of flour. The whole thing is 10 ruble, take it, give me 10 ruble and goodbye. And then after Pesach he would go and you would buy it back from him and pay him for whatever he buys back from him. But not on credit. The Chadashi Mikariv Bo came new ideas, and that refers to the Pri Megadim and the Noida Yehuda. They're all mentioned over here in the footnotes. And that you give a down payment. L'sakin lichtev v'hamoiser zakafti olav v'milva. That the way it worked was it would give the guy would give a down payment for the chametz. He would not make a calculation. It wasn't like each person would sell to his cleaning lady or something like that. Rather, they would sell all the chametz either through it off or sell to one guy. The guy has no way of paying for all the chametz, especially the guy that we find that maybe some guys do have the capability, but even the guy who does have it doesn't have the time to make the cheshbonos before Pesach of everything that he's buying. And the guy would put down a down payment for the chametz to this directly to the yid. And the shtar would say, whatever is left, I am putting it as a loan. That means if the whole chametz would be worth, after calculations, $3 million, the guy is paying $1,000, so there's $2,999,000 remaining that he has to pay, and those are written off as a loan. And this doesn't work according to Gdei HaRishonim. This is where the Shita Mekubetzes comes in. This Gdei HaRishonim is talking about the rif that the Shita Mekubetzes, that he brings it over there. That it doesn't work. Kanire ba'alil mimash kosu b'zegdei le'achreinim marai b'trumas hadeshen, like it's clearly written in the the Trumas Adeshin, and therefore Trumas Adeshin, Bechal didn't hold of this takon of selling and having leftover as that. Lazois, Ein takon acheres limker ba'akofe. There is no way of selling it only with a down payment and the rest being left as a loan towards the guy. Why is that? Because if you're going to do it in that manner, that the sale is only from one, that the sale is done, and then on a down payment, and then he receives it back, and then he buys it back afterwards. Then at the time when the seller didn't have in mind a complete sale of the chametz, because he had in mind, okay, I got part of it, so I sold, but the gemara mekach is going to happen. One of the issues is going to happen at the moment when the sale is completed. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, there's no other takana, rather lius yad yisrael acher ba'emtza, to have another yid that's there in the middle, in between the guy and the seller. Shelo yihye la yisrael, that means, just to explain what that means, is that the yid who sells the chametz, there's three people now here. There's a yid who sells the chametz, his own chametz, the whole community's chametz. There's a guy who's buying the chametz, and there's a third yid in between the yid who's selling, between the Rav and the chametz. He becomes the Arav Kablan. This is the introduction of it. And therefore, the yid, after the completion of this sale, the yid and the guy have nothing more to do. So if the guy is not going to pay the yid, he's not going to pay for the chametz after Pesach, the seller doesn't even go to the yid. The seller doesn't even go to the guy. He goes to the Arav Kablan to collect what is owed. So the guy could walk off. Then the Arav Kablan has to go chase the guy. But the seller has nothing to do with the guy the moment the Arav Kablan kicks in. Why is that? Then the Jew who sold the chametz has absolutely no business dealings with the guy who purchased the chametz. The guy does not owe a penny more to the Baal HaChametz, to the owner of the chametz. To another yid who's not part of this sale, and his chametz was he never had the chametz. So now, just a pointer: if a person's out of Kabbalah, he obviously has to sell the chametz to a different. He sells the chametz through a different Rav, of Kabbalah. V'gam ha'choyv shenischayev lo yanochri hazman piroin hu la'achar ha'Pesach, and also the choyv that the guy owes to the yid does not kick in right away, but rather only kicks in after Pesach. That means the sale is complete and the debt only happens after Pesach. Like it's going to be explained in the shtar that the Alter Rebbe was massacring, which he sent to everybody. Based in the shtar that the Alter Rebbe said each person could send the chametz for all the chametz that he has. Because you can't specify everything that has to be in written. And this solves a certain problem that you have, because if the Mechira is done straight from a yid to a guy, then the guy has to know what he's buying. The truth from the Tzemach Tzedek that we're not going to discuss today, but the yid has to know what he's buying. And if the guy has to know what he's buying, every single thing with the price. If he doesn't know what he's buying, the Mechira is a suffix if it kicked in or not. So now, when the whole sale is done through somebody else, and the guy is not obligated to you anymore, at that point in time, you don't have to specify. If you can't specify all the minim b'chsav, it still works.
Why does the Kabbalah not need to specify?
Who?
Why does the Kabbalah specify?
What do you mean doesn't have to specify?
Why does it help for that plan?
Because then if the guy would know, the sale is complete now. So if the guy is not clear on what he's buying, he doesn't know how much money he's owed, he's not complete on what he's purchasing. Like this, the Yid is confident. The guy is not worried about how much he's going to have to pay. Why? Because he has 2-3 days after Pesach to make the cheshbon. He has time to go through. He has to make inventory and everything else. From his point of view, he doesn't owe any money until it kicks in. The Yid owes all the money. One Yid owes all the money to another Yid. The guy purchased everything. In his mind, I purchased everything. I'll figure out what I want to keep, what I don't want to keep, how much I have to pay. Everything I'll figure out later.
The person could do that himself without having a problem. Say, I'm selling everything.
Yeah, but then the Mechira never completed. Because the guy is not going to be comfortable now going into a business deal without knowing what he's getting himself into.
You can say it's only Chal after Pesach. Same sort of. Tell them it's only Chal after Pesach. So for now, the Mechira is good. After Pesach, it'll start.
Good. That would solve that point, but that would not solve the first point that he doesn't know. That we do. You don't know out of Kabbalah. The out of Kabbalah is added to it. Yeah. Ve'ikar hakoil. The main point of the Mechira Shia Yisrael Balacham et Savur v'Kibul be'emes. The main point, which was also not instituted in previous Shtaris Mechiras Chametz, that the Yid has to understand. The Yid, the guy who's buying the Chametz, has the full right and authority to sell the Chametz for whatever price is normal, not a fire sale, but he could sell at a regular price without any pressure all the chametz that he acquired in the city. The me'achar shu savur v'kibel be'emes v'mekach zeh she'efshel lekabel misha yitzaliknes be'irzu, being that when you sell the chametz, the Yid sells the chametz to the guy through the out of Kabbalah, he understands that the guy has a right to sell it. He is selling it at that. There's a pisuk damim also. The additional element over here is there is a sale price. It's not a open-ended contract with no sale price that there's no gemar mekach. You have a pisuk damim. The pisuk damim is whatever the amount that you could sell it for in this city. So he knows he has a 2 bottles of whiskey which are worth $1,000 each, and he knows the guy could sell it for him. This pisuk damim, his sale was complete. He sold it for $2,000. Those 2 bottles, sold it to the guy. In his mind, there's a pisuk damim because the guy is told that he is allowed to sell it. And the start of the guy is allowed to sell it for whatever the going market rate is. Like when you have a discussion, when you have to do checking price for something in Chashem Mishpat, the Shuma is done by 3 people. Opinion sometimes you could do the Shuma by 1. Even though the Yid knows that the guy is not going to actually go ahead and sell the chametz, it's still not a problem. Why? Being that the guy has the right to do it, full legal right to do it. But the only reason he's not doing it is because he doesn't want to deal with it and he wants to sell it back to the Yid. It's a complete mechira. That solves the mechira of the chametz. Part 1 of this. The mechira of the chametz has to be done with a full, complete sale. The guy has a right to sell it to whoever he wants at the market rate. There is pisuk damim. There is an art of kabbalah that covers the full rent, the full price of the sale. The guy has nothing more to do with the seller of the chametz, and therefore the mechira of the chametz is a mechira gemura. Now, in addition to selling the chametz, you also have to sell the rooms where the chametz is there. Why is that? Because if the rooms where the chametz remains are in the achrayus of a Yid, it's a shayla if chametz in the property of a Jew, chametz of a guy in the property of a Jew is over bal yirah bal yamatzon. Therefore, you also sell to the guy the rooms where the chametz is located. Now, when they did the old shtaris, the other shtaris, they would also put in that the sale of the rooms was also done with zakaf olive and milva. And over here, the Alter Rebbe says, "In Afghan b'chiras achadarim ein moel kum miskav v'milva fidas gdei rishonim zal." The same issue we have with selling the chametz, we have with selling the rooms to the guy. Ve'ein takane ela b'schirus. Therefore, the solution to it is not to sell the rooms to the guy, but rather to rent to rent the rooms to a guy. Now, when you rent the rooms to a guy, since it's not a full sale, it's a rental, you don't need an Arav Kabbalah for this part. Like I went a lengthy explanation in a special kuntris, I'll call Prate Amavorim Benusach Zeh, and everything that's explained in this Nusach, and that kuntris was never found and never printed, and nobody knows where it is, but the Alter Rebbe, this was a letter to the Anash with the Mechiras Chametz, but there was a lengthy kuntris which explained it. Therefore, Tzemach Tzedek and the Shearis Yehuda dealt with some of the elements of this, Sai in Piskedinim, which I didn't print in your book, and Sai in the Shalos Tshuvos to deal with this issue. Then the Alter Rebbe moves on to explain the Nusach of the Shtar. Nusach of the Shtar is a Nusach based on which later Shtaris, Lubavitcher Shtaris happened. Chasim Asyoed Lamada Toyle Leikim Yoedim, the Yid signs, Ech Shemocharti Le'orel, Moitzi Ksav Zeh, I sold it to the guy who is the holder of, who is presenting this Shtar, Mechira Gmura V'chaluta Bli Shum Tanai, complete and absolute sale without any condition, Kol Minei Chametz Sheyesh Li, Kol Minei Chametz, every single kind of Chametz which I have, B'cheder Ploni Ploni HaMesumen B'Mitzarov, in the specific room which is marked off with, and these are the borders of the room, according to the price, the average price that is in the city. If it's in a little village which does not have a marketplace and does not have set prices, so you're going to write according to the price in the bigger city which is next to this village, because that's where they would go and sell the stuff. According to the time that now could be sold in this city. Dahainu, what does it mean? At the price, what does it mean, the city price? It doesn't mean the most expensive price you could find in town, go to the most expensive store. Rather, it means how much would people pay for it in this city, buying buying in cash and not on credit. They should be able to take it from here and sell it elsewhere to more expensive and make a profit of it. Or sell it slowly. It means a wholesale price in the city. Like when they what's me'at me'at in a mashka is being sold by the cup, not in the inns, not sold by the barrels. V'chen b'sheichar, same thing with beer. V'chen b'tvuah mechumetzes, same thing with wheat which already became chametz. V'chen b'shar min chametz, also any other kind of chametz. V'chen kelim mechumotzim sheyesh aleim chametz be'ein. Same thing, any kelim which have on them chametz be'ein. I'm not going to go into the whole discussion of kelim. You sell the kelim, you sell the chametz below. Kelim over here, you sell to the guy the kelim which have on them chametz be'ein. Ubesach ubichlal sach hakoil ha'olim mikol hachametz hanal. In the total price, which includes the chametz, nichlu gamkim mechira zu, also includes in this mechira not only the chametz which is in the room, which was already marked off, also chatiches chametz sheyimatzu bechadarim hanal. Also little pieces of chametz which don't have a set price, and nobody is going to buy a single Cheerio that's sitting on the floor in your room. It's included even though it doesn't have a price, but I am also selling it, and I am rolling that price which is going to have the calculation is going to include also the little pieces of chametz which don't have a sale price and cannot be sold, but they are in the rooms which are being sold to a guy. Bittul is also enough, but since you're including it in the mechira, so there's no bittul for it. Bittul works for the crumbs. If you can't, if nobody's going to buy it, and it's not included in the mechira, but the mechira, the chatchila, we include it. Umisach kol hamois sheyagia ma'orel moitzi ksav zeh. Those little pieces. The rooms that are marked off, that you rented out the rooms to him, those two little pieces of chametz are included in there. B'chadorim hanal.
In the rooms that I'm selling the
Yes. In the rest of the house, you clean your house well. And the...
he rented out the room to the guy.
Yeah.
And there would be a piece of chametz that wouldn't belong to the Beis Savi, being that he rented.
No, what would the room, it's dirt in the room the guy is renting it. You understand that it includes everything in it.
Otherwise it would belong to the Yid.
Belong to the Yid. And then the bittul would work for it. Bittul works, that's the first point. The reason why Mechira is there at ice is because the bittul only works if Mechira doesn't work.
You can't just say any chametz in my rishus anywhere, you can't write that?
What?
Any chametz I have anywhere, even if
You have to mark off, you have to write where the place is.
And if anything that's not marked, is not mitzvah. You can't write any chametz I have in your rishus.
If you are not in the rishus, yeah, you give the whole house to the guy, not only the... People leave the whole... No, you have to write the addresses.
That's considered to be, that's being like, let's say
You're renting the rooms.
You have to write where the room is. Specifically.
No, where the room is. No, today you write... Today what...
But it says there's Lashon to be like...
You have to write the borders. Today we don't do it. Today we just write in the marked places. You put
in the marked places.
In the marked places, yeah.
Mark them off.
You have to mark them off, yeah. Or at least close them off and close them off with something that you know that's where it's marked off. Now, from all the monies that the guy that I'm going to receive from the guy for all the chametz, for all the money I'm going to get paid, the full payment at the end of Pesach, after Pesach, that I'm going to get from the guy for all the chametz that's in all these marked rooms, after doing the measuring and the weighing and everything else. Hareini poiches loy chatzi ruble. I'm going to deduct for him chatzi ruble. Sherviach la'atzmi batilchose limkar hachametz b'mekach hanal mezumanim. Whatever the price is, he has a built-in profit. The guy has a built-in profit. He has an incentive. Even if he doesn't sell anything, the fact is, I'll make the calculation of all the chametz, and even if he's going to come and decide he's buying all the chametz after Pesach, and the full price is going to be, let's say, they're not talking such big amounts of money, talking $1,000, he's going to get a certain amount of money batil chosei for his work. He tried selling the chametz. He had the whole Pesach to try and sell it. He worked for 8 days. Couldn't sell it because he's a battle. At least he has a built-in profit. Ureshus biyado, he has a right limker afgam techa Pesach la'areilim shebeira shechutz la'ir. He has a right to start selling now, even though he's not paying until after Pesach, after calculation is done. He already has a right to start selling now. Even more expensive than the price he has. If he gets a better deal on a specific product that he has, he could already, if he finds out that that you have a certain bottle of mashke, you think it's worth $1,000, he's able to find a client who wants to buy it for $5,000. He's the cheshbon that you're going to give to him at the end of Pesach is going to be $1,000 because that's the mekach beirazu. But he was able to find the collector who's willing to pay $5,000 for it. He just made $4,000 of you. V'arevach shelo, and he gets to keep the profit. V'chein, same thing. Im yavo Yehudi mitzvah mechutz la'ir b'motzei yom tov v'yitein yoser. Harevach shelo, same thing. If a Yid is going to come to the guy on motzei yom tov and say, you bought the chametz of what's his name? Of Yanko. I know he has in his closet this bottle. I want to pay you a certain amount of money for this bottle. That bottle, according to your calculation, is worth $1,000. I'm going to pay you now $5,000. Still, the revach shaloi. Next important point over here. I'm giving the guy and anybody who he sells to full rights to access my property, to take the chametz. It's not enough to just sell it and lock him out. So he has to have access to the property. My property. First thing, I already gave him keys as a kinyan, I already gave him keys to the rooms. By him getting a key to the room, it's the first kinyan that he has able to lock the room if he wants to. First kinyan. For the rooms where the chametz is in. V'gam, I also, nosati lo yodi, I gave him my handshake. Ala mechira hanal kedei lechat. Like business deals are sealed with a handshake, I also gave him a handshake. Second kinyan. V'gam, also, third kinyan, kibalti min kol dmei hachametz at pruta achreina. I received from him the full payment for the chametz. How did you receive the full payment for the chametz? You received the first down payment of $1,000, and you received the thing, like it says, the hainu shekibati menu echad zahav mezuman al iravin shekoirin zadatik keminag haseichrim. I first received from him one golden coin as a down payment. Zadatik is a down payment. Keminag haseichrim, like the business people do. Really, the rest of it should have been on credit. But valamoisar, on the rest, atashum kol asach sheyalav yageh me'orel, for the full amount that's going to be that I'm supposed to receive. La'achar medida, after measuring, oyamishkol, or weighing, kvar kibalti mimenu, I already received from him. That means the guy this is already after he received the key, did the handshake, and now he's also receiving the coin, and the yid is also receiving the shtar of the Art of Kabbalah. I already received the Art of Kabbalah signature that covers me. I'm already done. I'm fully paid off by the guy. Who is nischayev? Nischayev v'kinyan agav sudor. The guy was nischayev. The yid, the Art of Kabbalah was nischayev to the guy in a kinyan agav sudor. Now, just remember, kinyan agav sudor doesn't work for a guy. A lot of these kinyanim don't help for a guy. One of the things that the Alter Rebbe instituted in the shtar was adding the kinyanim that we saw until now for the chametz, but there's going to be more kinyanim later. But between a yid doing a kinyan agav sudor does work. So a yid will become Art of Kabbalah to the guy. Not only did he sign the Art of Kabbalah document to the guy and gave it to him, he also was kinyan agav sudor that he's becoming the Art of Kabbalah. L'salik ba'adoi kol asach she'yageh mimenu, to pay on his behalf any money that he owes. Achar nikui chatzi rubel, obviously after taking off the chatzi rubel that he receives as payment for his work, ve'echad zav, and the golden coin that he already paid hanal. When lizman piran amevur b'chasimis yad hanal, at whatever time is written in the shtar of the Art of Kabbalah that he signed. Ume'ata, and from this moment, nikna kol hachametz, all the chametz was sold, was l'orel moitzik savzeh to the goy. Me'achshav mamash, from this very moment, bekinyan gomor l'chalut, in complete kinyan, beli shum tenai v'shir kla, without any condition and without anything that I hold still, that I have zero, I release any control, any possession that I have on this chametz. Ve'eli olav, I have no claims. Shum tainus u'mainus u'pischem pe ba'olam. I have no claim, no complaints, and nothing against this guy. V'chol hamois sheyagia liyad ha'orel moitzik sav zeh ba'ad hachametz. Any money that this guy is going to receive, kashiyim kerenu kuloi or miktsasoi, whether he will sell the whole of the chametz or a part of the chametz. Liyehudi achar Pesach, to Yid after Pesach. Or la'areilim afgam b'seich Pesach, or to a guy during Pesach. Any money that he's going to receive from this sale of the chametz, he does not give me, the seller, he rather gives to the Art of Kabbalah, who is now the person who is responsible for everything. Not to me, has been 1 penny. The Art of Kabbalah, Hiftiach, already promised, lehamtin loy kol hayoim isru chag, wait for him the whole day of Isru Chag. If he's not going to succeed in selling all the chametz to the goyim during Pesach, he's also giving him an extra day of Isru Chag to sell all whatever chametz he has, to sell it to the Yidden, to sell to the Jews in town. Or Bekfar, if it's in the village, Yamtin Beis Yomim. He has to wait 2 days after Pesach. So the guy could go and sell in the nearby city. Why? So the guy would be able to earn his work for his work. Or maybe a Yid is going to come, find out about it, and come to the guy and tell him, I want to pay more. If the guy is not going to want to work, he's lazy, he doesn't want to go sell the chametz, as I after could be could be that the Arif Kablan will want to go and get the chametz back instead of the payment, because now the Arif Kablan is the one who's dealing with it. He owes all the money. So could be, he tells him, I don't know, could be that the Arif Kablan will want to buy it back, will want to take it instead of getting the money, because the Arif Kablan already owes the Yid who sold the chametz a few $1,000s. So he tells the guy, listen, could be you, instead of you paying the Arif Kablan the few $1,000s that you owe, could be the Arif Kablan will agree to just take all the chametz back and deal with it, but there's no guarantee. And you and the Arif Kablan will figure out how much money you'll get paid then for it. Again, I have nothing to do with it. More. In addition to selling the chametz and renting out the rooms, we mentioned the renting out the rooms. Now comes the rental, and this does not have an Arif Kablan. I rented out to the guy b'schirus gemura in a complete rental. All the place of it, b'mekach echad, zahav be'at kol cheder, for one golden coin. Mehayim at klois yom yomayim. The rental is from today until 1 day or 2 days, or in the village 2 days or 3 days after Pesach, that he has the rental of the rooms where the chametz is. Now, so he has the chametz accessible to sell to whoever wants to sell. I received from him the full rental price in cash. Since there's no loan, there's no Arif Kablan. I could rent out a room for whatever price I want. I could rent out a room in my house for $20. I could rent a room in my house for $100. But it's not a sale where you have to look at the value. A rental is less than that. The gam also mosati loy hamafteiches kedin Torah. I also gave him the keys because he rented the room. In addition to doing the key before, that is done as a kinyan. I also gave him now a conditional key that is for rental of the rooms. And now comes the next kinyan. V'agav kinyan schirus achadarim. By him renting the rooms, there's a kinyan agav over here which kicks in. All the chametz that is in these rooms will be nikne agav karka agav, the rental of the room. Beyeser seis v'yeser ois al kinyan dilael. This is an additional kinyan. Yeser seis v'yeser ois on the previous kinyan which was done, which is the kinyan of money and the kinyan of giving him the key, the first kinyanim. V'hareshus nesuno lehatik michsav ze beloshin Russia. There's permission if you want to translate it to Russian. Be'ezeh mokim mishpat akeser yom hoydin yada arba v'loshan nesinas akeser yom hoydin li'stekev michtav ze ketekev contract nasik nimus v'das akira. The contract could be translated to Russian. It has the same power as a contract which is done according to the laws, both for the rental and for the sale. And as a proof, I signed my name. Now go back to the instructions. The Alter Rebbe says, you're going to take this, you don't have to translate it. Why is that? This shtar you didn't have to translate because legally, they did not have to, in those days, a contract in Russia did not have to be written in the Russian language. In America also, a contract does not have to be written in English. But for these kinds of things, it didn't have to. As opposed to other things, maybe they did have to make a contract in the language. But the guy still has to know what he's doing. So even if you just write the contract in Hebrew, the guy, you have to read it for him, you have to read to him what it says in the contract. V'gam nusach chasimas yad ma'arif kabbalah, also that settle from the ma'arif kabbalah, you also have to read and translate to Russian. Well, the hasbir lehetiv, and explain to him very well, so he should understand. Yeah, this is the heitev mean that he has to know what he's getting himself into and what he's doing. Kol ha'inyan, the whole concept, mirosh ve'atzoi, from beginning till end. That is, when you do a mechiras chametz, you can do mechiras chametz wherever you can do mechiras chametz. It's very, very important that you sit and you're going to have to explain to the guy what kinyan agav is, what kinyan mafteach is, and what kinyan of kesef is, and try to get a smart guy. It'll be much easier for you to work with him. Yeah, you don't collect everybody mafteach. You give one mafteach. The Rav gives his mafteach, one room in his house for the schirus.
What does it do anything?
It's like agav, renting one room. You kind of all the chametz. It's everywhere.
You have to give one number also. Does he have to be able to access his room?
Yeah. I saw Rabbanim, they usually give the garages.
And giving one key, how's that helping for all the rooms, all the houses?
So we'll take a break from this for a little bit. Go to the page 179, a letter from the Rebbe. It's a letter from the Rebbe, Chelik Yud Gimel. It's what you wrote about the fact that of giving a key in Mechiras Chametz, which seems like they didn't do. If you probably know, Asher Bekama Mekoimes Vayoris, in some places, Afilo Medaktikim b'mitzvahs, even those are Medaktik mitzvahs, in the Bezmana Achrin ein oisim zois. The Poil, they don't do it. Maybe what you wrote about being a problem is only the pilpula, not by the Gelapoil. And Gelapoil people don't do it. Interestingly, there are tshuvas in the Tzemach Tzedek, which we're not going to get into today, that discuss if b'di'evid you didn't give the key. It seems like the b'di'evid became a lechatchila, but the keys are not given from every person to do it. I did see certain rabbanim that do collect a bag of keys, and they mark them off, but it's only usually done very small mechiras, not when you're dealing with thousands and thousands of shtaras. V'zen nusach chasimas hayad ma'arif kabbalah, and this is how the arif kabbalah shtar looks. Chasimas yodid lamata te'ela k'mei eidim. My signature will testify. Ech shekol asach shemegim arol plainim and plainim liyehudi plainim and plaini. All the money that is owed from this guy to the Jew who sold the chametz, be'at kol hachametz shekalim menu bekinyan gomer mechira chaluta, for all the chametz that he purchased from him with a complete sale. B'mekach hamevur b'shtar mechira, according to the price which is going, the deal which is referenced in the shtar mechira, shemasar liyodai, that was given to the guy. Mechuyev ani achos umata l'salak liyehudi anal zman pira, and I am obligating myself to pay it to the yid. Lo yeuchar mishnei yom achar Pesach halaz, to pay it to the Jew no later than 2 days after Pesach. B'mezumanim, in cash. B'lishim tainas u'maynas u'bischem pe ba'olam, without any claims at all. On behalf of this guy, is based on whatever price is going to be determined after measuring and weighing. If the guy will then decide to sell it to other people, obviously if he's not selling it to other people, it doesn't have. There's no sale. The guy could keep the chametz. The Sharakel says the guy could keep the chametz, or he sells it to other people, and all that the Arif Kabbalah is responsible for. If the guy is not going to sell anything, and I will then receive from the guy the chametz, the guy will decide he didn't sell anything, and instead of paying me, he's going to want to give me the chametz, I will receive the chametz. I am then obligated to take all the chametz, sell it. I have to give to the Jew, the other Jew, the seller, all the money that is owed for this. Unless the selling yid will then decide that he wants to receive the chametz as payment. Agav Sudor Miat Ploni V'Ploni Hanal, and I received with this obligation, I took it upon myself with a kinyan Gomor Agav Sudor from the Goy Ulare Bayas Ilachosim, and therefore I'm signing my name here.
This happened during Pesach.
Huh?
This happened during Pesach.
What?
The guy doesn't want to chametz anymore.
During Pesach?
Yeah.
No. Why should you not want the chametz? The only way is if he dies. To hold Shiloh. Huh? You try to get a guy that's not planning on dying. V'kach yaseh be'emes Yisrael ba'al hachametz. And now, and this is how he's going to do, with the guy. Litin knaf bigda sheyechos b'yachosum kenog v'chol kineg avsuda, to do give him a knaf bigda, give him a part of his clothing, something he's wearing, to kinyan suda. But yeah. V'ador b'kfar yechidi v'en lo ben bal mitzvah v'lo meshara sheyuchal lachtoim. Okay, this is already the what happens when there's nobody available. Yeah, okay, we'll skip this now. Okay, now that is the shtar that Alter Rebbe wrote, the takana of the Alter Rebbe when it comes to this. When it comes to this. I don't have enough time to go through today's shtaris, but let's go. I just want to,
The Alter Rebbe's changes in various comments. Is that something that just we follow, or?
Today, mostly, it didn't become accepted across the board. And I don't know why.
If you're going to be using an Alava Shirav, you could run into a big problem.
Yeah, but the evidence is fine. Because otherwise, because they all sell, without matter of carbon. Why is that? Basically,
Why is it not a problem?
it's okay. Because the shavik mar chaya l'kol beria. The shavik mar chaya l'kol beria. Now let's go to page 69, short tshuva from the Shearis Yehuda. That's what I'm going to focus on, because the Shearis Yehuda then came and added more kinyanim on top of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe in Siman Yud in the Shearis Yehuda is a whole explanation about Arav Kabbalah. Page 69 is Siman Yud Aleph in Shearis Yehuda. We're going to the third paragraph. Ulefi, he says, so it discusses about selling through a kinyan agav, the kinyan agav that we saw in the Alter Rebbe's shtar. Ulefi, the Shearis Yehuda says, Lefi, being that some people hold that kinyan agav does not help for a guy. Ulefichach lekosav Rabbeinu Agoyin zal kinyan zel yesas says, the only reason why the Alter Rebbe mentions this kinyan, the Alter Rebbe mentions only the yesas says and not as a yesoides dike kinyan, not as the main kinyan. The Alter Rebbe mentions agav only at the end of the shtar. The main kinyanim are giving the key and handshake kederech hatagorim and receiving all the money. Ani rogi letzavis lahoisif kinyan chalifin. I have a custom to also add kinyan chalifin. Well, afi she'ena Yehudi yodea. Yes, so in addition to the kinyanim which we have until now, there's also kinyan chalifin, which is going to be explained soon. Lefi she'en Yehudi she'en ha'ena Yehudi yodea mos kinyan sudor. Since the guy does not understand how kinyan sudor is done, roga ani loimer zoysa eitza. This is what I recommend. Likach min ha'ena Yehudi kli b'teiras chalifin. You'd ask the guy to give you something, a keli. What things are those? Kegoin sakin, a knife, or fire gezeig, or a lighter. Hamotzi Yitzha'ena Yehudi. Don't ask me why, but that's the Shearis Yehuda says that if you're looking for a lighter, you're looking for a knife, you'll find it in the guy's pocket. and you ask him for one of those two things that he usually has. Tell him, give it to me. V'loymar, and tell him, the reason you're giving it to me, ein el b'shvil kinyan bilvad al pidas shalanu. It's a kinyan for our religion. It's also interesting. It tells you, even though really when you make a mechira, you want that the guy should say that's a full mechira. And it goes to kinyan chalif, and the Shearis Yehuda right away says, the guy's going to get scared. Tell him it's a kinyan for religious purposes. And then you give it back to him. And therefore, since the Shearis Yehuda says to add unto the Alter Rebbe's star also kinyan chalifin, you add into the star v'oid kibatim in a kli plain b'teres chalifin liyasa says, add the lashon that I added that you also do kinyan chalifin. Yeah, and then we jump to the end of the paragraph. Even though also in kinyan chalifin there's a machlokes if it works by a guy or not. Mikol makom beit staref. Beis hakinyonim im kinyan arvus moyil. Yeah, that if you combine the kinyan agav together with the kinyan chalifin, together with the purchase price, the arvus, the purchase price, the full money kinyan, all together it will kick in. Yeah. Now, when you look at the Heintige Stories, which are also printed in this book, you should know where to look for it. Starting from page 52 and on is the shtar that usually used. That's a pretty standard shtar that's used to sell from the Rav to the guy. Page 59 is the Arif Kabbalah. And over there in the bottom already starts the shtar harsha that is given that is sold from the person to the Rav. Then you have shtar harsha merav lerav, page 61. That's if you have a lot of times shluchim or other rabbanim, I'm not going to make their own mechiras chametz. They're going to transfer it to another Rav. So they take and they will transfer their own, whatever they received, it's a harsha, shliach is a shliach to the other Rav. And then, in addition to it, afterwards in the bottom of page 61 starts the shtar mechira shel Rabbeinu, which is the Rabbeim did not appoint the Rav as a shliach to sell the chametz. Rather, they would sell the chametz to the Rav, and then the Rav would then sell it, make all the kinyanim with the Rav, and out of Kabbalah and everything, and then they would sell it to, then the Rav would then go ahead and sell the Rebbe's chametz further. There is two instances where chametz was sold to where it was sold through a harsha, and that is, if you look, it means there was a harsha, and then the harsha, then it was sold weiter. If you look in page 171. The Rebbe Rashab was in Tafresh Samach Aleph. He was in Germany for medical purposes, and he wrote that he's going to send the Frierdiker Rebbe his harsha, send the Frierdiker Rebbe, his son, a harsha that he should be able then to sell the chametz to the Rav in Lubavitch. Not only the chametz that the Rebbe Rashab owned in Lubavitch, but also the chametz that the Rebbe Rashab had with him in Germany. That is in page 171. And the other one was in the year Taf Reish Tzadik, when the Frierdiker Rebbe was in America. The Frierdiker Rebbe came to America from the end of Taf Reish Peites till close to the end of Taf Reish Tzadik. The Frierdiker Rebbe was not in Riga at the time. He was in America, and he was in Chicago at of Pesach. And the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote this is on page 172, the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote a Shtar Harsha to the Rebbe. The Rebbe was then in Riga, appointing the Rebbe to sell the chametz. If you look, this is at page 174, you have all the three documents one after another. So the second one, this is page 174, you have it. So you have the Ksav Harsha was written on Chav Zayin Adar Tafresh Tzadik. And even the Frierdiker could have sold the chametz in Chicago to Lubavitcher, the Frierdiker went to sell it to the regular Rav, and it was he has the whole list of the places where he has. He says, I'm giving koyach v'arsha to Chasoni, Rav Menachem Mendel, Rav Levi Yitzchak, Shneres and Akom Mine chametz, Chashash chametz, Sarubis chametz, Kelim Mechumatzim, everything that I have in this place. L'moichram v'las shliach, l'shliach, l'shliach, limker mechir gmur v'chaluto, l'haskir, b'skirus gmur kol ha'mekoyim shel chametz, v'litin la'koinim drisas regel b'rishusi. So in this short harsha that the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote to the Rebbe, appointing the Rebbe, he took care of the 3 pointers, that the 4 points that are mentioned in the Alter Rebbe's Takana. Starts by, well, more than that. It says, Mine chametz v'chashash chametz, v'taruvas chametz, v'kelim mechumotzim sheshlem chametz be'enis. Again, a quote from the Alter Rebbe. Then at the end, limker b'mechira gmura v'chaluta, complete sale. Ulehaskir, also to rent, b'schirus gmura kol ha'mekoyim shel chametz, rent the rooms, not sell the rooms. V'litin la'koinim drisas haregel b'rishusi, give the koinim entrance to my properties. This is the answer to your question that you asked if drisas haregel b'chatzeri. No, it's b'rishusi. And it was signed. Then the Frierdiker Rebbe sent a telegram to confirm that there was a telegram sent to Rebbe Tzemach HaMedina to confirm that the shtar came. And then the Frierdiker Rebbe sent a letter in Erev Pesach, which came in the middle of Pesach, that was a kosher felach in Pesach one. And then you have the shtar of the Frierdiker Rebbe in Tafresh Tzadik. It was not the shtar of the Frierdiker Rebbe, but rather was the shtar that the Rebbe signed as a mursha of the Frierdiker Rebbe. That starts. It's also on page 273 and also on page 176. If you look in page 174, you have when in the back of this shtar of Tafresh Tzadik, there it says the Fidiver Rav Yisrael Zuber Hutak Shtar Mechira Zeh Mishtar Mechira Shel Admor Maharash, the nusach of the Shtar Mechira. The Shtar Mechira is 176. Chasim As Yodi Lamata Toid Ole Kamei Edim Kshenim V'Nemonim Echshanim Chosu Mata Mocharti. He says that this was the shtar of the Rebbe's sale. It's on page 176. Sorry, I mixed up with this. 174 2 is the shtar that the Rebbe sold the Frierdiker Rebbe's chametz. So 172 you have it. Chasim Yisrael Lamata Kamei Edim Kshenim V'Nemonim Echshanim Chosu Mata Bo Bekoyach V'Arsho Mechoisni Chak Admor Rav Yosef Yitzchak Ben Chak Admor Rashdab Shneerson Mocharti LaRav Yaakov Yisrael, and the whole nusach of the nusach of the shtar, and this was signed on Yud Gimel Nisan, because that was Erev Shabbos. Erev Pesach was on Shabbos, and then on page 175, 176 you have the Rebbe's shtar Mechira that he sold himself. And over here you have the address in Riga where by the Frierdiker Rebbe's house, and then his address in Berlin, in some addresses in Berlin, and that is that shtar. Now, if you want to look, page 178 on the back of the Rebbe's shtar, interesting what was added. The locations of the chametz. Alagag tzad mizrach droimis, on the roof, on the southeast corner. Ha'aliyah ube'argas shebecheder achila ha'oimed l'tzad tzafin. Number 5, and there's 2 addresses. There's number 5 and there's number 1. In number 5, it's in the attic and in the box, which is there's a case which is in the lunchroom, and the northern side, miyamin echad be'arga shebetzad darim, and on the number 1 apartment on the south side, u'shebetzad sofen hacheder shebeis hatav shel ha'im betzad mizrach esfein. So all the locations where the chametz is there. Yeah, ubechol makim, in case there is anywhere else that I'm not aware of, so it covers it. But really, if you know where it is, you don't just sign a name and go on. You're supposed to write. Now, it obviously covers something you're not aware of that you forgot about. We'll cover all those things. And with that, we'll conclude the first shir on Mechiras Chametz, and we will move on to the other topics, the next 2 shiurim in Mitzvah Hashem.